Hi, kids. Today we're going to do a simulation looking at how adaptations happen in a population. Now, before we get started specifically on the organism we're looking at or the simulation that we're doing, I want to talk in general about how adaptations and survival are linked and also how they are different. So, when we talk about adaptations, we're not talking about a single organism changing right there during its lifetime. That's not how adaptations happen. It's going to be that changes happen over a whole population over long periods of time, usually multiple generations. And that in general will cause the organisms to start changing because of things that are happening over the course of the whole population. Survival is going to be an individual situation, whether one organism survives or doesn't. Now, when you look at survival of a bunch of individuals over time, it should show you the trend and the connection to how that population is also adapting. So they're very much linked together, except survival is individual and adaptations are over a whole population. Okay, so we're going to look at specifically survival and adaptations in deer mice. This is a little deer mouse. Isn't it cute? And we're going to look at this deer mouse's fur color specifically and how fur color is going to influence its survival. Now, all four of these are deer mice, and you can see they all look very different. And the thing that you should also notice is they're in different habitats. So there is a correlation between the habitat that a deer mouse lives in and its fur color. So we're going to look at that during our simulation today. Deer mice are going to live between 2 and 3 years. This happens in the wild. And so also in your simulations, you will notice that there will be deer mice that disappear. And that is going to be either due to predation or due to the fact that they have hit their deer mouse old age and have passed away. Now, looking at the actual simulation we're going to do and how it works. When you click on the link for the directions, it will take you right here to this simulation. And we're going to go over the buttons quickly just so you understand how it works so that you can more efficiently go through this because there are a lot of buttons we are not going to use. So the first one that you will need to know is the run button, and it makes the simulation start. Okay. And then you can pause it also with that same button. Now, the add button has the little birdie on it. It is specifically a hawk. So you can add hawks or take away hawks from a situation, and that's the button you'll use to do that. The other thing that you can look at is the habitat that you've chosen. It defaults in the beginning to field, but you can also change it to beach. Okay, so we're going to look at two different habitats storing this. You do not need the inspect or the collect buttons. That's if you're looking at things more specific for the genetics, and we are not doing that. If you want to play with them, go ahead. Just make sure that you reset things so that it doesn't influence the data that you're getting for us. Speaking of reset, here is the reset button right here to take everything back to 0 and the default fur settings. Now, down at the bottom, there are many checkboxes. We are not using any of them. You don't need to click on any of them. But if you would want to see if the mice are male or female, you can do that. And if you want to see if they're heterozygous, if you remember from genetics what that means about them having one of each of the two kinds of alleles, you can click on that as well. But we are not looking at that. So those are extraneous buttons that you don't need to worry about. What you will need, though, is this graphing button right up here. Now, whenever you first look at it, it's going to have the instructions, but the graph button is going to be a good friend of yours during this. It will give you the numbers that you need for the simulation data that you're collecting. So we're going to run just so you can see how the graphing works. A simulation, whenever it hits 12 months, it's going to start scooching things over so that you're only looking at 12 months at a time. If you would prefer to have all of the data present that you're collecting all at the same time so you can see things over the full period of time, you can go to the upper right-hand corner where it says Show All Data, and it will compress your information. For the trials that we're running, you're doing a minimum of 5 years, so 60 months. So make sure that you are going enough time in order to see the full 5 years of data. The other thing that you could have up here is if you would like to have a pie chart to show what's going on, you can also have that. Now, as we look at this, there are other buttons down here at the bottom where you could look at the genotype or the alleles, but we are not doing genetics, so you don't need to click on those. That is purely if you would want to investigate on your own, you can see that. And this little I button right here is if you collect a specific mouse, you can look at its genetic information. But once again, since we're not doing genes, that is an extraneous button in our situation. So that is the simulation you'll be using for today. If you have any questions, come and see me or Mrs. McLean, and we will be more than happy to help you with it. And I hope you have a good day.